The story you tell yourself about why you can't succeed is the exact same story that millions of other people use to justify their mediocrity, and nobody cares about it. Today, we're exposing the victim narratives that keep you trapped, revealing why your current story is sabotaging your future, and showing you how to rewrite your personal mythology from powerless to unstoppable. Right now, think about the story you tell people when they ask why you haven't achieved your biggest goal yet. What's your go-to explanation? Hold that thought. By the end of this video, you'll realize that story is the prison keeping you trapped, and you hold the key. Why do you keep telling the same sob story about your circumstances? And why does it feel so satisfying? Your brain is addicted to victim narratives because they provide something irresistible: absolution from responsibility. When you blame your parents, your past, your boss, or your circumstances, you get to be right about why you're stuck instead of being responsible for getting unstuck. Neuroscientists have discovered that victim stories trigger the same neurochemical reward as gossip or social media. They feel good in the moment, but leave you powerless long term. Your story is your prison. The people who break through recognize that their past explains their starting point, not their finishing point. They understand that keeping your victim story alive is choosing to stay small. When you stop telling the world why you can't, you start showing the world what you can do. What if the story, "I'm not ready yet," is just fear wearing a business suit? Every day you tell yourself you need more preparation, more knowledge, more experience, or more perfect timing before you can start. But here is what successful people know. Readiness is a myth created by perfectionism to keep you safe from judgment. Dr. Brené Brown's research reveals that perfectionism isn't about high standards, it is about using preparation as an excuse to avoid vulnerability. Meanwhile, people who embrace good enough consistently outperform perfectionists because they actually in the game instead of endlessly preparing on the sidelines. Ready is a story. Done is reality. Consider this uncomfortable truth. You'll never feel ready for anything that matters. Every successful person you admire started before they felt ready, learned while doing, and improved through action. Stop telling yourself the story that you need permission to begin. Your first draft doesn't have to be your masterpiece. It just has to exist. Here is the story you've been telling yourself. I'm just not the type of person who takes big risks. But what if that's not your personality? What if that's just your programming? Your current identity story feels true because you've been rehearsing it for years, but it's actually just a collection of past decisions that you've turned into permanent character traits. Your brain loves comfort zone stories because they eliminate the anxiety of choice. If you're not the type, you don't have to face the discomfort of growth. This is why someone will say, "I'm just not a morning person" for decades, instead of going to bed earlier for 1 week. Your comfort zone story is keeping you comfortable with mediocrity. High achievers rewrite their identity narratives in real time. They understand that "I am not the type" is just code for "I haven't practiced being that type yet." Your personality is unfixed. It's just the current draft of who you've decided to be. Why does every big goal feel like trying to eat an elephant while juggling flaming torches? Your brain processes complex objectives as single, massive tasks rather than collections of manageable steps. When you think start a business, your mind conjures images of everything from market research to tax filings happening simultaneously, which triggers overwhelm paralysis. Behavioral psychologists call this cognitive load theory. We simply can't hold all the steps in conscious awareness at once without our mental circuits overloading. This is why looking at a cluttered room feels exhausting before you even start cleaning, or why thinking about getting in shape seems impossible when you visualize the entire transformation. Break it down to break through. The most successful people don't see big projects. They see next actions. Instead of launch my podcast, they see record 1 minute of audio today. Instead of write a book, they see write 1 paragraph. This isn't just productivity advice, it's psychological warfare against your own resistance. When you shrink the task, you shrink the fear. Picture this. You're sitting on your couch waiting to feel motivated before you start exercising, but the gym regulars are already on their second set while you're still negotiating with your feelings. Most people have the motivation equation backwards. They think feeling comes first, then action follows. This leads to endless waiting for the perfect moment when enthusiasm strikes like lightning. Neuroscience reveals the opposite. Action creates the neurochemical cocktail we call motivation. When you move your body, complete a task, or make progress toward a goal, your brain releases dopamine, norepinephrine, and endorphins, the exact chemicals that make you want to continue. Motion creates emotion, not the other way around. Successful people don't wait for lightning to strike. They create their own electricity through consistent micro-actions. They understand that motivation is a result of action, not a prerequisite for it. Start the action, and the motivation will follow within minutes. This is why the hardest part of going to the gym is putting on your shoes, not the actual workout. What's the smallest possible version of your goal that you couldn't possibly fail at, even on your worst day? Behavioral researcher B.J. Fogg discovered that sustainable change happens when you make the initial action so ridiculously easy that resistance becomes impossible. His tiny habits methodology proves that micro-actions create macro results over time. Want to write a book? Commit to writing 1 sentence. Want to exercise? Put on your workout clothes. Want to meditate? Sit quietly for 30 seconds. Want to eat healthier? Pack 1 piece of fruit. Start stupidly small. Your brain can't argue with actions that take less effort than making coffee or checking your phone. Once you're in motion, momentum carries you further than willpower ever could. The 2-minute rule isn't about limiting yourself. It is about eliminating the friction that prevents you from starting. Once you write 1 sentence, you often write a paragraph. Once you put on workout clothes, you often go for a walk. The goal is to show up, not to show off. The most powerful question you can ask yourself isn't, what do I want to do? But who do I want to become? Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you believe yourself to be. When you hit snooze, you're voting for someone who lacks discipline. When you skip the gym, you're voting for someone who doesn't prioritize health. When you scroll social media instead of working on your goals, you're voting for someone who chooses distraction over growth. But when you show up despite not feeling like it, you're voting for someone who keeps commitments to themselves. James Clear's research shows that identity-based habits are exponentially more powerful than outcome-based goals because they address the root cause of behavior change. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your identity. Instead of saying, "I want to lose weight," say, "I am someone who takes care of their body." Instead of, "I want to be successful," say, "I am someone who consistently takes action toward their goals." Start thinking like the person who already has what you want, then act accordingly. Your actions will align with your identity automatically. Your environment is silently voting for or against your goals every single day, and most people don't even realize the election is happening. If you want to eat healthier but your kitchen is stocked with processed foods, you're fighting an uphill battle against convenience. If you want to read more but your phone is charging next to your bed, you're competing with infinite scroll for your attention. If you want to exercise but your gym clothes are buried in the laundry basket, you're adding unnecessary friction to good habits. Stanford's Persuasive Technology Lab found that environmental cues influence behavior more than conscious decision-making. We constantly responding to subtle signals in our surroundings. Make good choices inevitable. Redesign your surroundings so that desired actions require less friction than undesired ones. Put healthy snacks at eye level and junk food in hard-to-reach places. Leave your guitar visible and your TV remote in another room. Place your workout clothes next to your bed and your work materials in a dedicated space. When your environment supports your goals, willpower becomes optional instead of essential. You're not fighting your environment, you're collaborating with it. If you're finding value in these insights and you're ready to stop making excuses and start making progress, hit that like button. It tells me you recommitted to breaking through your own barriers and taking control of your life. Here is a statistic that will fundamentally change how you approach goal setting forever. People who simply write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them. But people who share their goals with someone else are 65% more likely to succeed. But here is the twist most people miss. It is not about finding someone to cheer you on like a personal cheerleader. It's about finding someone who will call you on your excuses and hold you to your word. Dr. Gail Matthews' groundbreaking research at Dominican University revealed that participants who wrote down goals and shared weekly progress reports had a 76% achievement rate compared to 43% for those who kept goals private. The magic ingredient wasn't support, it was accountability. Public commitment creates private accountability. When you know someone is expecting a progress report, your reputation becomes the fuel that drives action when motivation fades. Your future self will thank you for creating systems that make it harder to let yourself down. Find an accountability partner, join a mastermind group, or simply post your commitment publicly. Make it real by making it witnessed. What if failure isn't the opposite of success, but the raw material from which success is built? High achievers have a fundamentally different relationship with setbacks. They treat failures as data points, not identity statements. When something doesn't work, they ask, "What did I learn?" instead of, "Why am I terrible?" This isn't toxic positivity or motivational fluff. It's strategic thinking based on how innovation actually works. Thomas Edison didn't fail 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. He found 1,000 ways that didn't work, which gave him crucial information about the way that would. Fail fast, learn faster. Every failure contains intelligence about what doesn't work, which narrows the path to what does. The person who fails the most and learns from each failure inevitably reaches there, Destination first because they've eliminated more dead ends than their competition. Failure isn't something that happens to you, it's feedback that guides you. Reframe every setback as data collection, and you'll find yourself taking risks that others avoid. Time management is dead. Energy management is everything. And most people are trying to be productive during their mental equivalent of a power outage. You might have 8 hours in your day, but you don't have 8 hours of peak cognitive performance. Research by performance expert Tony Schwartz shows that elite performers work in 90-minute focused bursts, followed by recovery periods. They also match their most challenging task to their biological prime time. If you're a morning person trying to do creative work at 9 p.m., you're fighting biology itself. If you're a night owl forcing yourself to tackle complex problems at 6 a.m., you're working against your natural rhythms. Work with your rhythms, not against them. Track your energy patterns for 1 week. Note when you feel most alert, creative, and focused. Then restructure your schedule so your most important goals get your best hours, not your leftover minutes. Schedule demanding tasks during your peak energy windows and routine tasks during your low energy periods. This isn't about working more hours. It's about working during the right hours. What gets measured gets managed, but what gets celebrated gets repeated. And most people are starving themselves of the psychological fuel that powers persistence. Harvard Business School professor Teresa Amabile studied thousands of diary entries from employees across different industries and discovered that the single most motivating factor in work wasn't recognition, bonuses, or even purpose. It was making progress on meaningful projects. Even small wins triggered positive emotions that fueled further action for days. Yet most people focus entirely on the gap between where they are and where they want to be, completely ignoring the distance they've already traveled. Progress is the ultimate motivator. Create a visual system to track your daily actions toward your goal. Whether it's check marks on a calendar, dollars in a jar, or miles on a map, make your progress impossible to ignore, and your momentum will become impossible to stop. Visible progress creates invisible momentum that carries you through the inevitable rough patches. Show me your 5 closest friends, and I'll predict your future with scary accuracy, because you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. Jim Rohn's famous observation isn't motivational fluff. It is backed by decades of social psychology research. The Framingham Heart Study tracked social networks for over 30 years and found that behaviors spread through friend groups like viruses. If your close friends are obese, you're 57% more likely to become obese. If they're happy, you're 15% more likely to be happy. If your friends are complainers who make excuses for everything, you'll find yourself complaining and making excuses. If they're action takers who consistently pursue their goals, you'll absorb that behavior through social osmosis. You become who you spend time with. This doesn't mean you need to abandon everyone in your life, but it does mean you need to intentionally seek out people who embody the traits you want to develop. Join communities, attend events, and build relationships with people who are already living the life you want. Your network doesn't just shape your net worth. It shapes your habits, your mindset, and your future. Why do college students write entire research papers the night before they're due, but struggle for months to start projects with no deadline? The answer lies in Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Without constraints, goals become wishes that float indefinitely in someday land, never urgent enough to demand immediate attention. But artificial deadlines create the same psychological pressure as real ones, if you treat them seriously and attach real consequences. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely found that self-imposed deadlines with meaningful stakes work almost as well as externally imposed ones. Deadlines create urgency. Urgency creates action. Set a specific date for your goal, not someday or eventually, but Tuesday, March 15th at 5 p.m. Tell someone about it who will hold you accountable. Attach a meaningful consequence for missing it. Donate money to a cause you hate, give up something you enjoy, or perform a task you despise. Time pressure transforms intention into immediate action because it forces your brain to prioritize what actually matters versus what feels comfortable. Here's the mathematical truth that separates dreamers from achievers. Small daily improvements compound exponentially over time, creating results that seem impossible to outside observers. If you improve by just 1% every day for a year, you don't end up 365% better. You end up 37 times better due to compound growth. This works in reverse too. Declining by 1% daily leads to near zero after a year. The challenge is that compound effects are invisible in the beginning and obvious only at the end. For the first few months, daily improvements feel meaningless because the results are imperceptible. This is why most people quit before the compound curve kicks in. Consistency beats intensity every time. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and dramatically underestimate what they can accomplish in a year through consistent daily action. The secret is showing up daily for the long game, even when progress feels invisible. Trust the process, trust the math, and trust that small actions compound into extraordinary results. Your future self is counting on the actions you take today. Your excuse-making days are officially over. We've uncovered why your brain resists action, how to start stupidly small, the power of identity shifts, and why your environment votes for your success or failure every single day. Remember, motion creates emotion. Progress is the ultimate motivator, and 1% daily improvements compound into extraordinary results over time. You now have the psychological tools to break through any barrier and turn any goal into reality. Next week, we diving deep into the 5M Success Code, the morning routine that high performers use to win the day before most people even wake up. If you're ready to stop making excuses and start making progress, you know what to do. This content is for motivational and educational purposes only. For specific life coaching, career guidance, or professional advice tailored to your individual situation, please consult qualified experts in your field.